Okay, in the last week I spoke about how organize inner structure of society by the basic staple foods. Three dominant cereal we can identify which were the base of society: wheat, rice, and maize. Wheat was staple food for Mediterranean, a little bit later, a European civilization. Rice, Asian civilization, and the maize or corn, it's depend British or American English, was a staple food of American and a little bit later a global agriculture. And the very important peculiarity of these cereals we can identify and divide according to needs of labor, productivity, and soil effect. In the last week, I spoke about the peculiarities of wheat, rice, and maize. Look at the social consequences. If we focus as to the wheat culture, because this is a norm of comparison, because on the Middle Ages and mainly in the modern time, a European civilization became the most successful civilization. It's possible temporary, because if we compare historical dimension, a different civilization, which civilization the most successful? A Chinese, of course. Until the beginning of 19th century, majority of indicator, China was the most developed civilization. Moreover, if we are looking at a smaller regional dimension, which is the most developed country before the industrial civilization, you know? Bengali. It's recently named Bangladesh. And recently, the most underdeveloped country. And it's a good example, before Industrial Revolution, this was most developed area. Why? Because it's a large alluvial plain area. And in the period when agriculture dominated the economic activity, this is the best area. The great river, Ganges and Brahmaputra, came from Himalaya. But recently, when industrial activity is and service and technology and IT, the most important leading sector of economy, the role of agriculture decreased. Probably you know how many percent participate in the agrarian activity recently in the developed country. 1 or 2%, and which is the share of GDP, gross domestic product. 3-5% agriculture only. 3-5. And role of agriculture decreased. But on the time before the Industrial Revolution, agriculture was the most important sector of economy. Okay, look at the wheat. Wheat-based culture, there is a very important proportion. 80 to 20. 80 to 20 mean that 80% of society should be peasant. In consequence, low productivity of wheat. You remember, one seed produces only 4 to 5 seed. Very, very low carrying capacity. Therefore, until the modern time, dominate by agriculture and dominate by peasant. Low density of population. You remember in China, for example, on the area of Nanking, highest density of population, 400 persons per square kilometer. In Netherlands, for example, only 50. In Hungary, only 15 or 20. Therefore, it's much lower. But positive consequences, high sensibility for technical innovation. Not enough people for solving the problem. And use, for example, the muskets and gunpowder. In China, for example, where invented the gunpowder, not necessary, because playing gunpowder is a dangerous job. Dangerous. But in Europe, no other option. because not enough soldier. Therefore, necessary to increase the capacity of soldier with firearms. Balanced nutrition. Balanced nutrition mean in Europe, in consequence of high exhaustive rate of wheat production, never disappear animal husbandry. Why? Because a dam of animal husbandry, the sheet of animal husbandry, necessarily revitalize the soil. No other way. Before the fertilizer, artificial fertilizer, no other way. Therefore, in Europe, in the European agriculture, very high proportion of animal husbandry. And in the staple foods, in the meals, the meat, the proportion of the meat is quite high. The proportion, other proportion, 5:1, its carrying capacity of animal husbandry 1 and plant farming 5. Therefore, there is a balance because the plant farming much higher the carrying capacity compared with the animal husbandry. Therefore, on the age of increase, the growth of population increase the arable land, but never disappear the animal husbandry because lack of animal necessary revitalizing of arable land. Okay, it's simplification, but quite a typical parallel consequence to the society, rice and maize. High density of population, both cases. Look at, for example, Aztec civilization, Inca civilization in Americas and for example, Chinese or Japanese society. Low sensibility for technical innovation. Look at the story of gunpowder, look at the story of magnetic compass. The civilization, no need for that. Qualitative starvation. You remember there are two forms of underfeeding, qualitative underfeeding and quantitative underfeeding. Quantitative underfeeding means not enough calorie, and qualitative underfeeding not enough fine element of feeding, for example nutrition, vitamins, trace elements and so on and so on. And which is the consequence of underfeeding, general qualitative starvation? Decrease the size of body. There is a simplification and prejudice that the Asian people is a short. It's a short. It's not true, not a genetical. Look at, for example, record book of Guinness record book, tallest, highest man, Chinese. It's not genetical. But in consequence of underfeeding, passed generation by generation, therefore, in critical situation, in crisis situation, the body became shorter. It's more easy to feed these people who shorter body compared with the taller body. Therefore, the size of body follow the economic recoveries. It's, for example, I don't know Indonesian history, but for example, in Hungary, on the time of conquering of Carpathian Basin, it happened in the 10th century, 1000 years ago. The size of body of men, warriors, was 1.71 centimeters. But it's 10th century. Reconstruction of archaeological reconstruction of symmetry reconstructed the body. This is the average of body size of conqueror. But in 18th century, it's quite overpopulated the Carpathian Basin and recruited up to soldier into the army and identified two crucial information about the soldier, recruited soldier. The size of body, it's possible I told you, not? A number of teeth. Why? Because the staple food for soldier, it's a dry food. It's not enough teeth, weakened. Therefore, two criteria was for optimal soldier, number of teeth and size of body, because necessary to bring the arms and the backpack, and necessary aid, the dry foods. Okay, but the size of body was 1 meter 71 centimeter. Much smaller. Why? Generation by generation is live in starvation. And recently, not recently, but at the end of 20th century, on the time of recruited soldier to the, not voluntary, it's mandatory army in the 20th century, late 20th century, the size of male population is 1.2 centimeter. Why? Because it's balanced nutrition in the modern condition of society. Okay, the qualitative starvation and low importance of animal husbandry. Probably you visited in Chinese restaurant. Which is the meal? Which is the meat? Sorry, not meal. Which is the meat in the, for example, Chinese fast food? Chicken, duck, pig. No more. Why? Because in the rice field, rice regolith, no place for animal husbandry. There is a very old joke about when the first Chinese fast food restaurant appeared and asked the Chinese owner, which is this meat? This is a chicken, and the other one, this is a dog. But in Hungary, nobody ate a dog. Yeah, chicken. Yeah, but it's not easy to judge which is the origin of meat in the Chinese meal. Okay, but the low importance of animal husbandry. Look at it. It's not important, agrarian revolution, but closed a medieval climate optimum and start a late ice age. I speak about the late ice age because recently the calendar a little bit different. Starting a climate deterioration in the late Middle Ages. Indicator of climate deterioration are growth of glacier. You know the glacier. It's a frozen river, high part of the mountain area, Alpine region, for example, in Europe. Climate deterioration. The climate became cooler and wetter, more rainy and more snow. Europe, in this period, in the 14th century, arrived to the phases of overpopulation. How? If we are looking at the trajectory, how changed the population of Europe, this is the diagram, a simplified diagram. This is the 50 million and 100 million. Okay, this is the 2nd century, end of Domini. Estimate, no census, but it's quite reliable estimation there are about the population of Europe, estimate around 50 million. To the 6th century, the 6th century was the deepest period of the Dark Age in the Middle Ages, estimate to 20 million. And to the 10th century, reorganized European civilization, founded new kingdoms, for example, in France, in Germany, in Hungary, in Poland, everywhere, and somehow became more regulated, more peaceful, the everyday life. And Europe, to the 11th century, reached again a 50 million. And to the 14th century, reached 9 million. This was the great recovery of population. But population reached the ceiling of overpopulation. A ceiling of overpopulation. Appeared underfeeding, both forms of underfeeding, quantitative and qualitative underfeeding, and appeared in consequence of crisis, agrarian crisis, a green harvest. Why? Because cereals, it means wheat, rye, barley, wasn't enough hot the vegetation period, wasn't able to ripen, Therefore, necessary to harvest in green form, no ripen form, it's a green form. And the people ate, and these seeds of cereals rotten, make a sickness. This is the trajectory and diagram which I drove over there. It's recovery of population and reached a demographic ceiling. And this is the diagram about the climate change. We can see this is the medieval warm period. This is the age of Viking discoveries in the northern part of the North Sea. This is the great growth of European population, but started the Little Ice Age. Little Ice Age, the last great climate change, we know quite well the starting and unfolding period and the closing period at the turn of the 19th and 20th century. The climate became cooler. The first indicator, as I mentioned, are glaciers on the mountain area. On the time of cold and the wet period increased the size, like in the thermometers, indicate the climate became colder. And if recently you visited in Alpine, Austria or Switzerland, no, because recently if you will visit in Alpine region, there is a rocks, indicator rocks. This was the position of glacier, for example, in the middle of 19th century, at the end of 19th century, in the middle of 20th century. Why? Because melted back the glacier recently in consequence of recent global warming. But in the Little Ice Age increased the size. Why we have information about the position of the glacier? Because probably you know the chocolate of Milka. Chocolate of Milka. Therefore, majority of pupils in kindergarten imagine that the normal color of cattle is a purple. Because no personal experience about it, and the winner is recently, because majority of developed country, majority of children living in urban area never met personally with the cattle. Therefore, indirect information try to use for understanding the world. Therefore, the best one, for example, in the kindergarten, necessary to indicate which is the normal cat is a purple. Okay, but very big. I spent my childhood in a small village. I lived together. It's possible I told to you that my mother was very nervous because I speak together with the cattle for 1 or 2 hours. Therefore, I have a practical, personal information about. I can imitate, for example, the voice of the cattle, and it's a very old question. You met personally with the cattle? No problem. But very interesting that during the childhood of my daughters and my son, I visited with them in the playground and take to my shoulder and I imitate the voice of animals, different animals, and barking and mewing and everything. And very interesting, is good example, which is more important, the first meaning of communication or the context? Of course, the context. Why? Because when I walk on the street and barking, whoa, 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 on my shoulder with my son or daughter, everybody laughing and was very positive. But I never tried without children. This indicates the context is important, much more important than the first meaning. Okay, turn back to the story. Why so important and why well discovered the story of glacier? Because in Switzerland, in Austria, very important the animal husbandry, mainly the cattle. And cattle, during the period of vegetation, walking up to the mountain, on the grassland area for grazing. And one cattle necessary to drink day by day 70-liter water. Look at, for example, one herd with 100 cattle. 100 cattle. A normal herd. Higher area of mountain area, not easy to find, finding a drinking place. But a glacier, on the side of glacier, there is a snow line, a melted line of snow cover. A glacier transformed to small river. And ideal place drinking a huge herd. Around a melting place of glacier, the shepherds constructed a stable, a buildings, some construction for the animal. Therefore, if increase the size of glacier, destroy the stable, destroy the hut of shepherd, and the shepherd very angry. And going back to the village, to the pub of village, and complain, glacier pushing. And the local people, for example, priest or teacher, wrote down each of information. Because animal husbandry in the mountain area, the cattle is a crucial animal. And the shepherd, it's transmit information about the mountain area. Therefore, we have a very sophisticated diagrams about the changing, how change a snouts of glacier. This is the Little Ice Age. It's Little Ice Age had a colder, it's a peak, and warmer period even. Okay, it's not an important job. But the first person who tried to understand the consequence of crisis, of humanitarian crisis, was Anglican priest, Thomas Robert Malthus. He lived at the turn of 18th and 19th century and tried to understand how made crisis, humanitarian crisis, overpopulation. How we can understand the mechanism of overpopulation. Look at the husband and his wife. If we are looking at wife, this is the crucial element of fertility, which is the period of fertility. Period of fertility in traditional world starting with 14 years old. It's quite early from modern point of view, but look at, for example, probably you know the play of Shakespeare. Juliet, how old was she? 14. 14. This is the starting date of biological fertility. And which is the upper limit? Upper limit is statistical upper limit, 40 years. Every second year possible theoretical approach, possible every second year, one birth. There is a 26 year, it's maybe 13 baby. But simplify a little bit, 12 babies. This is the biological fertility. But infantile mortality very high. Every second baby died before the 10th anniversary. Therefore, left only 6 who live until the adult age. But look at one couple able triple, even one generation able to triple the population. And the conclusion of Malthus, time by time, the population grow exponentially. But the same rhythm wasn't able to continue the productivity of agriculture. Therefore, according to theory of Malthus, time by time the season between the carrying capacity and fertility opened. And this logic closed the brakes, epidemics, wars and famine, and closed back the season. It's one approach to the problem of overpopulation. But the modern scholars produce other approach to the overpopulation. The first one, the first school, is a Malthusian school. Look at the second. Time by time, made crises are changing consequence, a changing relation between the population and structure of land ownership. What mean? Probably you know, there is a very old custom of primogeniture. The firstborn son hear everything. Firstborn son. Any other child, no any heritage. Nothing. Therefore, the primogeniture, the legal system of the first son, not the daughter, first son, made useless people. Useless people. What can do useless people? For example, in Europe, on the high Middle Ages, was a good option participate in the crusade. You know which is the crusade. Crusade, this is the military campaign reconquering of Jerusalem. It's a Christian, this is the cradle of the Christendom. And a lot of noblemen, generally the second-born and the third-born and the fourth-born, as knight, participate in the military campaign. Useless people try to find living possibilities in the crusade. But the first heritage system is a primogeniture, produce useless people, a lot of useless people. Look at the other heritage system. The parallel heritage. Parallel heritage means everybody received the same slice of estate. But in the case of overpopulation, the size of estate decrease. Dwarf estate. And finally, the very small size of estate wasn't enough for survival. Therefore, even the heritage system, both of these heritage systems, was able to make overpopulation crisis. And look at the last one. A complex relation between population, agrarian production, and the market. What mean? If we are looking in the 14th century, the basic problem was that no information, which area there is a crisis, and which area overproduction. Why so important? Because in the situation of crisis, one area famine, hunger, other area even the pig ate the surplus. No information, nobody knows. Not by chance, the first newspaper which published in Europe was an economic newspaper. No any other information, the price. Why? Because somebody would like to export from Hungary cattle to Germany. Necessary to know which is the price of cattle in Nuremberg or Augsburg or any other country. Therefore, the first problem, information, lack of information. Other one, no way transport the surplus. Not by chance, the great hunger, the great famine, the great subsistence crisis, not only Europe, whole of the world, disappeared after appearance of railway network. Railway network, because with help of railways, able to transport great quantity of products, even staple foods. Okay, complex relation between population and agrarian production. Look at the story. Okay, basically in the 14th century started the deepest humanitarian catastrophe of European history. It's named the Plague or the Black Death. About the Black Death, necessary to know that there are two homeland areas of plague. The first one, eastern part of Africa. During the Roman Empire, eastern part of Africa was the starting point of infection, of the pandemic infection. And other one, it's Central Asia around the Himalaya. Plague, a bacterial infection. You know, there are 3 types of infection. Virus like COVID-19, it's a virus infection. There is a bacterial infection, the most popular is plague, and a fungal infection. These are the most important infection. And you know this animal? Flea. Do you have a flea? No? I am very surprised because I spent my childhood in a small village. Moreover, I slept together, even my childhood, with a small cat. And it's a free spirit was and wandering everywhere in the village. And during my childhood, I had a lot of fleas. And I imagine the pure people, there is a moderate number of fleas, and the dirty is high number. But I wasn't able to imagine living without fleas. It was a very imaginary condition and situation. And unfortunately, when I moved the city, my fleas left me. Because I am able to kill the fleas. There is a special technology, if you're interested, after the lecture I told you how can efficiently kill fleas. And had a relative of my mother, Aunt Ilona, and she was a very sensible skin. And she was able catch and kill fleas even during the sleep of her. Okay, it's a special story, but okay. Look at the technology and the mechanism of infection. The starting point of infection in this area, East Africa and Central Asia, live small mammals, rodents, who had a special immunity, beer of bacteria, but without infection, without real infection. The vector of infection are the fleas. The size of flea not so high. It's a microscope photo. A normal size of flea is very, very small. For flea, no other option, blood. A sucking of blood. And generally the fleas are very, very loyal. Why so important? Because there are a pig flea, a cattle flea, a cat flea, dog flea, because the surface of skin very different. Therefore, the different fleas necessary to adapt the different. Because look at, for example, a pig skin is very harsh. Therefore, necessary much stronger sucking operation for taking and drinking blood of cat. For example, in the case of cats, it's a navigation in the fur. It's more complicated. And there is a human fleas. It's a other difference. Okay. Anyway, look at the mechanism. Bearer of infection are small rodents. On the fur of rodents live fleas. And each infection lived in local area, East Africa and Himalaya. Each of pandemic infection, it's a large area infection, start with drought, a dry period. On the dry period, everything is destroyed. Vegetation, flora, fauna, animals, prey animals, and predators. But each dry period close after some time, and start a recovery. But the prey animal recover much quicker. And the prey animal, the bearer of bacteria overpopulate and left the homeland area. And the man with rats live together with humans, live together with the humans. And this is the gray rat. It's possible I told to you the story from Harry Potter. You read the? No? Harry Potter? Only the movie? No.
And I know of.
Anyway, but in the Harry Potter, it's interesting because there is a lot of different layers, cultural layers. And in the first layer, a story for young student pupil in the secondary school. This is the first layer. But there are a deeper layer, for example, connection to the early English literature in the Renaissance and the early modern time. Why? Because one actor of the story, Peter Pettigrew, able to transform to gray rat. It's interesting connection that in the late traditional period, the gray rat is a smaller rat and lived in England like a self-domesticated animal. Why? Because no dangerous, very small the size, and the how the name is a it's a waste material able to clean inside of the buildings. For example, drop one piece of bread, run 8. Therefore, it's self-domesticated animals. Nobody hated because clean the surface of kitchen, for example. Recently functioned like a pets. For example, one of my friends had a dog. It's every time hungry. And if somebody drop to the 8 and clean. A little bit was the same, the function of the rat. Therefore, it's not only, for example, dangerous animal, but was a part of the human ecosystem. Therefore, became so dangerous. Proliferate the rodents who bear of bacteria, and the next step, a flea is drinking the blood of this animal, but start not able to drink to the stomach because I don't know the classical name, frozen somehow. There is a, for example, you cut for example, your hand and the blood is flowing out, but start somehow the frozen mechanism.
The anticoagulation.
This one. But sometimes some situation in the case of bacteria, it's start artificial manner, and not able to arrive the blood from the mouth of the flea to the stomach of the. Therefore, I told to you, normal situation, flea is a loyal. A dog, flea lived on the dog, the human on the human, but in this case, it became nervous and very, very hungry, and jump, and bite everybody. Therefore, proliferate the infection in the microblood circulation. And some picture about the plague infection. In the peripheral blood circulation appeared the first indicator of plague, and became because it's a frozen somehow, and became dark. This is therefore the name of this kind of the plague, Black Death, because the first indicator on the peripheral blood circulation appeared the slowing down the blood circulation, and this is the indicator of human infection. This is the mechanism which I try to tell for you. Free drinks the red blood, carries the bacteria, bacteria multiply in free gut, clogged by bacteria, and free by the human, and the human became infected. Not by chance, the great epidemics, human epidemics, proliferate on the great trading routes. In late Middle Ages and generally in the Middle Ages had two global trading routes. The first one, the Great Silk Road from China to Europe or everywhere of global civilization, and the second one, a blue one, a spice road. On the times, for example, the pepper was on the same price like gold. 1 kilogram gold was 1 kilogram pepper. My question, why? Why so? But because recently you go to the shop, pepper is a very cheap spice. Why?
It was so rare.
Yeah.
But much higher than other spice came from Indonesia, for example, nutmeg, for example, cinnamon, much higher. Why so special?
Preserved.
No rational reason. No rational reason. You know, for example, if you read a basic guidebook about the function of stock of exchange, the bourse, why change the, for example, bill of exchange, very high price and a little bit lower? A lot, majority psychology. Majority is psychology. No, here, probably you know, it's not sure, Wolf of Wall Street, movie of, it's quite a harsh movie, but indicate well, so psychological, the changing of price of different bill of exchange. And very important, follow the same trajectory, the luxury, the price of the luxury products. On the great career of pepper started in the Roman Empire. And until the 17th century, the pepper is very, very high price. The highest one was the same value like a gold. But very interesting, when arrived in consequence of geographical discoveries, the new fashionable products like tobacco, like chocolate, like tea, like coffee, pushed out the separate position and decreased the price very quickly. A little bit same situation, like in this faculty there is a education of how the name is stylist, you know, stylist education. And one part of stylist education, education about the perfumes. And sometimes, because it's very interesting, very special topic, it's quite rare people who are able to make a perfume, because in Europe there is only one perfume academy in Versailles, in Paris, near to the Paris, in France. And the teacher of the perfume sciences is graduated in Versailles. It's very, very special taste of, very, very special sensibility of the nose. And very interesting, he told that sometimes participate in the criminal investigation. Why? Because if walk into the building, able to feel so special smell, which normal people not able, and the hot situation, able picking a smell information. The nose of dog, much sensible, but the dog not able to tell the impression. It's generally, it's never the police declare this participation of the perfume specialist to investigation, but participate. Okay, turn back to the other story. And he told about which is the price of normal perfume. For example, one normal perfume is 100 euro, the price, which is the expense of preparation. Any other illusion. You take a bottle of Brad Pitt, and I imagine. It's not true, not true. And it's good verification, in this case, like for example pepper, majority illusion, a psychology. And a perfume making, this is the second highest rate of benefit after the making of cocaine. But it's legal. But very interesting, this perfume maker told a story. There is a industrial perfume making, 100 euro, and the expense 2 to 5. But there is a personal perfume making. A personal perfume, the procedure 1 year. For example, you have a useless 10,000 euro. You are not able, no other target, 10,000. You walk into the office, and it's not easy because the first 1 hour, taking, for example, a long form and more 100 pages. Why? Because taking a smelt information. And the actor, not actor, the how the name is, the subject of making of perfume, focused to the form and write, and the perfume maker take a smell information, like a dog. When the dog meet together and take a smell information. And make perfume, the procedure, 1 year long period. And it's very efficient, not products, it's a tool of manipulation. Why? Because the smelting, the oldest form of making picking information about our physical environment, and the more direct, because the smelting information taking directly to the brain. Any other, the looking and the hearing, there is a mechanism of transformation in the lens or different organs in the ear, but the smelting directly. Therefore, if make one optimal, ideal perfume for you or for me, able, like for example a fashionable cloth, able to manipulate the environment, the social environment, because increase the best character and decrease the worst. And very efficient. If you have 10,000 euro, the best investment. Okay, turn back to the story. A bubonic plague arrived to Europe via the Great Silk Road. And we know the place when infected the first Europeans happened in Crimean Peninsula. In Crimean Peninsula, in the Black Sea. You visited in the seaside of the Black Sea. Very interesting, because in the antiquity, a Black Sea was a part of Greek world. Around a coastal area of the Black Sea, there are huge quantity of Greek colony. Probably you know the news about the Ukrainian and the Russian war. And there is a very special, in the early phase of war, Mariupol. It was a great battle for long term. Majority of city destroyed by cannons of Russian army and artillery of Russian army. And very interesting, in Mariupol, it was an old Greek settlement, even lived Greek people whose ancestor arrived in the antiquity. And very interesting, because I am a geographer, and during my university studies, I visited in Crimean Peninsula. An unbelievable, overgrowing a different phase of civilization. For example, arrived Greek colonizers, later arrived Slavic invasion, later arrived the Mongolians, later an unbelievable build the civilization, the layer of civilization, very interesting to follow. Anyway, this settlement founded by Greek colonizer Theodosia on that time was under direction of Genoese, Italian city Genoa, and named Caffa. And Caffa took under siege in 1346 and wasn't able to conquer it. Therefore, applied the early form of the biological weapons with the catapult, tumble in the dead body from the army of Mongolian prince. And Genoese who lived inside of the city infected and brought to Europe. And the plague disappeared very quickly in Europe. Why? The people was underfed, lived in the starvation. And in the traditional world, before the modern clinical curing, no other way for survive, for example, infection, good condition of immunity. A well-fed people had good condition of immunity. And unfortunately, Europe wasn't good condition. It was an age of starvation. Therefore, in the 14th century, from 90 million died 40. Almost the half of population. No before, no after, so huge humanitarian catastrophe happened in European history. Almost the half, almost the second people. Which is the reaction of the contemporaries? The first reaction, creation of scapegoats. You know which is the scapegoating. Scapegoating, who is responsible for that? The first target of scapegoating, aliens, not from the universe. Aliens from different religious community, the best of aliens in European history, Jews. The second, Muslims. And the third, any other who don't live in the local place. The second one, witch hunting. And witch hunting, the most important target of witch hunting, the women. But not only women, because 80% women, but 20% men. There is a special category of witch master, is a male position. And very interesting peculiarity of the witch hunting, that the operation system is Inquisition. It was an Inquisition. And very interesting peculiarity of witch hunting of 14th century, who were the informer of Inquisition. And very interesting, three social groups came the informer from three social groups, not only in the 14th century, but on the time of Great French Revolution, on the time of Bolshevik Revolution, on the time of Nazi persecution. The same social group informed the Inquisition, the police, and the secret service, everyone. The first one, neighbors. Because in the neighborhood there are a lot of conflict. The second informer, the people who has a high social status, and on the time of crisis solve the problem. How? Look at two high positioned social groups. For example, doctors graduated a university and cured the local people for money. Who are the most important rival of them? A wise woman. A wise woman. You know which is the wise woman? It's a try to curing, for example, much softer technology with grass, with tea. It's a wise woman, it is a tradition. And decrease and destroy the budget, destroy the economic offer of doctors. Why? Because the wise women work for barter. For example, digging the garden, and for example, some cooking and so on and so on. Not for money, but for doctors, decrease the clientele, the clients, the circle of the clients, and accuse you are a witch. And in the procedure of Inquisition, killed. Therefore, one part of the clients move to the doctors. Occupy new position. First, second. Roman Catholic Church, exceptionally in the Christendom, living according to norms of celibacy. You know which is the celibacy. Celibacy means it's prohibit not only the marriage, but any sexual practice with women. The monks and the priest, everything, it's a celibacy. And breaking a celibacy, it's a little sin. No mercy, little sin. But majority of priests live together with women, unofficial. And in the theology of Roman Catholic Church, there is a very narrow way for solving this situation. It's an official declaration of sin. For example, the priest on the circle of community declare, I take a sin. I ask your mercy. It's take only once. No more, only once. But which is the position of his wife? No chance for official declaration of sin on the circle of community, because she is tool of devil. And which is the operation with the devil? Burn. No other way. Okay, two circle are neighbors and the high position priest and the doctors, and which is the third social circle who investigate the Inquisition, police and any other secret service. The children of the parents accuse his parents. Why?
He's the second son, he's not going to get anything there.
The traditional education was not only theoretical education, but physical education. Beating. Unfortunately, I spent my childhood, this was a normal. Beaten. And after some physical conflicts, might be the children somehow would like to take a revenge. And important peculiarity of the children, no vision about the future. It's quite limited. I remember during my childhood, a lot of times I didn't make my homework, because my time, which I was able to forecast, 3 hours. No more. I never think about the future, far future. Only 3 hours. And I slept excellently. I didn't make my homework. Never bothered me. But waking up so bad because 3 hours is quite near to time going into the school. Okay, good. 3 groups who was informer of contemporary Inquisition, our neighbors, high positional status citizen in the local community, and the children. And the third group, a flagellant. A flagellant was a great movement in consequence of great humanitarian crisis. It was we are responsible for the crisis. We are. Why? Because approaching a doomsday, a judgment day, which is the judgment day. Turn back Jesus Christ and judge the price of life everybody. And the contemporary political leader hated his community much more than any others. But it was a great social movement. Flagellant Brotherhood numbered 1 million followers. 1 million. Why hated the political leader? Because in consequence of arguments of doomsday or judgment days, they didn't pay in the taxes. No reason. And the social pyramid of Middle Ages, the people who are living in the top of the pyramid, the king, the noblemen, and any others, hated the people who didn't want to pay in taxes. Because the upper part of the social pyramid lived from the taxes. And not by chance, the contemporary army killed and slaughtered the flagellant movement. Okay, which is the form of the difference? The first one, a quarantine. Look at the COVID-19. The first idea was a quarantine, a technology of 14th century. It's old technology, it's not bad technology. The second one, extenuation of disease bacteria. How we can imagine the extenuation became weaker and weaker. Look at the human and look at the bacteria. The first one, bacteria. Around the bacteria, there are strong bacteria, middle strong bacteria, and weak bacteria. Which is the most successful? Of course, the weak bacteria. Why? Because the strong bacteria kill very quickly the infected person. And no chance for proliferate. The weak bacteria, it's survived a lot of months or years, proliferate the infection. Look at the other one, a human. Some people, there is a natural immunity. I don't know why, but there is a natural immunity. If we are looking at the trajectory, generation by generation, the bacteria became weaker and weaker, and the population immunity became stronger and stronger, and finally, in the middle of 18th century, naturally disappeared a plague. Any official and curing operation. Naturally. Immunity stronger, bacteria weaker, and disappeared. Look at the last one, a self-regulating family system. Contemporaries, not in the parliamentary election, but in natural and spontaneous consequences and conclusion, realize that a humanitarian crisis made by overpopulation. How we can solve the problem of overpopulation? Changing the year, the age of first birth of women. You remember the story, 14 to 14. This is the fertility rate. If growing up the first marriage decreased the number of offspring. For example, in Tudor England is 16th century, the average age of first marriage of women 30 years old. Everywhere, not only in the cities, not only in the urban area, rural area too. Why? Because Tudor area, it's a 16th century deepest crisis whole of English history. Therefore, no place for new generation. And women who married in 30 years old had a chance for 4 births. Set 2, half of the birth died, and only left a traditional, normal recovery. No more, no more. And it's very important conclusion because recently, imagine the people that the late marriage, it's a consequence of modernity. It's not true. It's not true. Even the traditional tribe, a crisis situation, grew up the age of first marriage. But why I tell first marriage? Why is it so important to tell a first marriage? How long was marriage in the traditional time? How long?
Few years.
But tell one number.
7.
7?
5.
7. 7 years. Why 7 years? Because if in the modern time, imagine about the traditional time, yeah, it's 40 years. It's a very long, very long. It's not true. Not true. Why? Because our generation memories are from the turn of 19 at the beginning of 20th century. And it was a special period. Why? Because the traditional customs survived, no divorce, but the modern curing increased life expectancy. And for example, a very famous Hungarian minister, Eötvös József, wrote in his diary, very good thing, the marriage, but a little bit too long. This was a new experience, because before this transitional period, the marriage was a short. Why? Because very easy to die. Epidemics, war, infection, and very bad physical condition. Lot of reason. Very easy. And the normal structure of life, more marriage. First marriage, second marriage, third marriage. And in the modern time, recently, how long one marriage? How long? In the modern society? 7 years long. I don't know why, but in the traditional time and the modern time, same. But the reason of divorce, different. In the traditional time, death, modern time, divorce. More peaceful compared. Okay, self-regulating family system. About the flagellants, witch hunting. Look at, this was the short-term adaptation. Look at the long-term adaptation to the plague. Self-regulating is over. And other form of adaptation that destroyed the classical barrier of feudalism, market monopolies, coordination failure, political jurisdictional parcelization. Because in the feudal world, it's separate small units. And for example, had to pay taxes and fees on the boundary of different estates. No, for example, on the boundary of a country. Nobody knows which is the boundary of the country. Nobody knows. It was a quite undefined area. For example, the guard of saving the outer boundary of countries in Europe appeared even in the 18th century. Before that, inner boundaries was the most important. Boundaries between different cities, boundaries between different estates of noblemen, and so and so. Therefore, a modern society, it's cancelled inner boundary. Why? Because if necessary to pay a lot of taxes, no reason for transport, for example, foods one place to other. Okay, bifurcated the trajectory of European state. One direction, unification of and centralization of country. This was a good example. England, France, and even Russia. Even Russia. And very interesting recently, because in Russia, in consequence of recent crisis, there is a great debate about which is the good way for the Russians. But very interesting, on that time, we'll take the coin beside the European style centralization. It's very interesting because recently, probably you listened the news about it, that declared the official political leader, Europe is not our way, turn toward Asia. But historically, the good option, according to historical experiences, was European side, European type options. Okay? Not interesting. Good. Jump. Okay, conclusion. Which is the most important conclusion? Stefan Robert Epstein is a professor of London School of Economics. Take a conclusion. Wrote a sorry, I jump over. I use the slides because I try to save time. Look at the conclusion. Stefan Robert, London School of Economics professor, summarized the most important experiences of the crisis of 14th century. The late medieval crisis is best understood as exogenous demographic shock, which triggered process institutional creative destruction. Is a crucial term, creative destruction. Creative destruction, I read all of that and turn back to the creative destruction, that raised the West European economy to a higher growth path by aligning incentive structure more closely with the exploitation of technological potential. What mean? Creative destruction, it's introduced by Josef Schumpeter, is Austrian economist, basically appeared in the history when existing institution wasn't able to solve the problem. Look at the feudal system. A feudal system separated small units. And the small unit, self-consumable units. Happened the crisis in 10 mice. Other? No any reaction. Therefore, a creative destruction means destroy the feudal system, which separated self-sustainable unit whole of the European civilization, and opened the way toward modernization. It's a very harsh problem, the creative destruction, because a creative destruction, there are victims. Look at, for example, Russia, history of Russia. If we are looking at the Bolshevik Revolution, and I don't know, you know, how many people died in the Bolshevik Revolution? 10 million. 10 million. It's a very high price. But opened the way, very harsh manner for modernization of Russia. Open the way. Because look at, for example, compare with the military capacity of Russia in the First World War and in the Second World War. First World War lost. Quite easy. Second World War won. Paid very harsh human price because the lost people estimate 25 million. You know how many soldiers died in Germany? Six. But the German army played double front line. One west, one east. Only 6 million. And Russia, 27. Unbelievable high price. But creative destruction means open the way for modernization. Therefore, why is so important conclusion for us? Because if we are looking the modern world, we are living recently in the modern world. Which is the criterion of modern world? Centralized governmental system, open trade, free trade, and using our artificial money. After the Black Death, introduced each of these innovations. Introduced artificial money by Florentine trader. Write, it's possible, I told you, write to one paper, this value 10 gold ducats, and everybody accepts. And to the 15th century, 1 century later, 17-fold more products circulated in European economy than financed by real precious metal. Therefore, artificial money was one crucial device of European modernization. Other devices of modernization are centralized city, and the third one, it's a network of trade, a network of firm. Therefore, if we would like to understand why became a modern civilization Europe, a modern civilization of Europe came from the creative destruction of 14th century. Why? Because the great humanitarian crisis verified the feudal system is not efficient. Necessarily invent something more efficient, more higher capacity, and European invented and introduced. And the European modernization came from the deepest crisis of the 14th century. And each crucial information reflected to the problem and the crisis of the Black Death. Okay, expired the time, and if you would like to write the exam, this will be the last question concerning the 14th century crisis. Okay, thanks a lot for your attention.